one word could be used to describe the Phillies' 2011 season, it would be expectation. Last year, the Phillies were picked by many preseason to win the World Series and at least win the National League. They cruised through the regular season with a historical performance as far as the team is concerned, pacing the league with 102 wins and setting a team record in the process. So getting to the postseason was no issue, but once they got there, things hit a bump. In a best of five divisional series against the St. Louis Cardinals, the Phillies were heavily favored, but found themselves trailing in the bottom of the ninth in the fifth and elimination game at home with Ryan Howard at bat. Now, Howard had ended the postseason the previous year against the San Francisco Giants by striking out at home and sending the Giants to become the eventual world champions. This year, Howard's fate wouldn't be much better as he actually grounded out to second base and ruptured his Achilles tendon in the process, jeopardizing his 2012 season and ending a Phillies season that should have gone out with a bang, with rather more of a whimper and devastating the fans of the team. Entering the 2012 season, again, there are expectations, and you need not look further than the Phillies' escalating records for the last 5 years, as they've increased in wins every year since 2007 when they won their first of 5 consecutive division titles. And last year they won the team record 102. And if you look at the correlation between wins and salary, over the same period, the Phillies have gone from being a middle of the pack team as far as payroll to being number 2 to only the New York Yankees, who have led the world in payroll for as long as I can remember. And an escalating salary has bought them some success over the last 5 years, obviously, with the 5 division championships and, in the process, 2 trips to the World Series. But dynasties and history only remember championships, and in that time frame, they have 1 World Series trophy. During the offseason, every team experiences roster turnover. Philadelphia fans have become accustomed to major moves like the trade for Roy Halladay 2 years ago or the signing of Cliff Lee last spring or last winter. But this year, with payroll escalating and the needing to sign Cole Hamels and Hunter Pence to extensions, the Phillies only made one big move. But first, we need to discuss who's in and who's out. The players leaving the team included longtime closer Brad Lidge, setup man Ryan Madson, who had been with the team his entire career, Wilson Valdez, and Ross Glode, bench players, but very important, and one of the 4 aces, Roy Oswalt, who was acquired in a trade 2 summers ago, but also fan favorite Raul Ibanez, who had to move on to greener pastures because he was too old to play the field. As far as incoming players, the Phillies signed former Philly Jim Thome, who just hit his 600th home run last season, pitchers Dontrelle Willis and Chad Qualls, and utility players Lance Nix and Ty Wigginton. But most importantly, to replace Lidge, they brought in former Boston Red Sox closer Jonathan Papelbon for $50 million over 4 years, which many people consider to be an overpay, but only time will tell. On top of the guys who are signed to contracts, there are a handful of players in spring training who are trying to make the roster either out of the minor leagues or as non-roster invitees. Some of those names include Juan Pierre, Scott Podsednik, and Dominic Brown, all vying for outfield bench spots, and Freddie Galvis looking for a utility position, as well as pitchers Philippe Almont and Justin Efratus, who will someday anchor the bullpen for the Phillies. Much like the 2011 season, the 2012 season will hinge on pitching for the Phillies. In 2011, they led the league in ERA, or earned run average, which is an average of the runs allowed by the pitching staff over 9 innings, and fielding percentage. So the team was able to win with pitching and defense. They were led the way by the 4 aces, which were Cole Hamels, Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, and Roy Oswalt, or RC2C for the 2 Roys and Cliff and Cole. But during the offseason, they let Roy Oswalt leave, and now they're left with Halladay, Hamels, and Lee, with Vance Worley and Joe Blanton rounding out the 5-man rotation, and Kyle Kendrick waiting in the wings should someone get hurt. The pitching is very important to the Phillies and will either spell success or doom for them this year, as for the fourth consecutive year, last year's run total scored by the offense decreased, and the team is only getting older, so their bats might be slowing down. As the old adage goes in baseball, good pitching will always beat good hitting. A major concern for the 2012 Phillies is injuries and the age of the team. Last year, they led the league in average age at 28.9, and the core has all gotten a year older. 10 players spent at least a little time on the disabled list last year, which, as they get older, that number will most likely only increase. The major concern right away is that Ryan Howard is going to start the year on the DL, and it could be as late as June after a spring setback has put him in a position where he had an infection in his surgically repaired Achilles tendon. The strategy for the Phillies is to bring in some of the new guys and let some of the internal players compete for his playing time between John Mayberry, Jim Thome, Lance Nix, and Ty Wigginton. They average a production similar to Howard's 30 home runs, 100 plus RBIs every year, as the four of them each averaged 15 home runs and 50 RBIs in half playing time last year. While the Phillies have had a stranglehold on the division for the last 5 years, it's important to note that this offseason, the rest of the division has done their part to try to catch up. While the Mets have remained largely inactive, they're getting healthy for this year. The Nationals went out and added several new starting pitchers and have a young core that's up and coming and reminiscent of the 2008 Phillies that won the World Series. The Florida Marlins went out and spent over $200 million on free agents, and the Atlanta Braves, if they can stay healthy, are always a challenge with their pitching. But as far as this season goes, the only thing standing in the Phillies' way will be their own injury and health, as they currently have the most talent in the division and one of the best rotations in all of baseball. As long as they have former Cy Young winners Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, and World Series MVP Cole Hamels, the Phillies will always have a fighting chance on any given day.